We'll see. I had it on for so long. Hi, everyone. Good morning. Welcome. First Zoom faux pas here with the microphone muted. So welcome to our 8 to 9 transition meeting, where we're going to talk to you a lot about the long path we have till your students become high schoolers next September. But we do start early, and this year we started a little earlier, as we've communicated previously this fall. So right now we have over 100 people in this meet, and I'm sure it'll continue to grow, which is wonderful. And just a reminder that your friends and family and your children can certainly watch this, because we will put this both in our Google Classroom and on we'll email it out later as well. So thank you. We're excited to do this work. The format of our meeting today will be that we're all live right now, the counselors and a few administrators. And then we will be playing a recorded video that our counselors made late last week, so that they can go through their entire presentation. During that presentation, we'll also have a live Q&A up. We have to approve each question, which we'll do very quickly once they come in. And we just ask that you look at that Q&A if you can, before you type one in, just so that we don't get a lot of redundancies. It's not the end of the world if we do, but it's just a little easier to manage if we can kind of sort through them, and they're more varied questions. But again, we'll answer any of them. If it is a very distinct personal question about your child, we'd ask that this not be done here, and you certainly can contact anybody on this call. Your child's guidance counselor is a great starting point, and then and we can answer you there. So without further ado, I just want to kind of introduce our team who's here. Miss Waters, our assistant principal in charge of guidance and special ed, who will moderate our Q&A later. Miss Correa, one of our guidance counselors. Miss Mills Carroll, one of our guidance counselors. Miss Marino, one of our guidance counselors. She's in right now for Miss Musto, who started the year. We have two Miss M's for us, so that your kids won't get confused. But she's doing a wonderful job if you haven't met her. And certainly between Miss Marino and then when Miss Musto returns, they'll guide you through this process. Miss Faust was unable to make the live meeting, but you'll see her in the recording. And Mr. Harrigan and Mr. Noreen may or may not be out there somewhere. But again, we're all here to help. And at this point, we're going to start our video, which will begin with Miss Mills Carroll explaining a little bit about the high school transition. So thank you, and we'll jump on at the end. We'll get the volume working in 1 second and start it again. Okay, sorry about that. We tested this all out without you all here, but of course, once we start, it doesn't work accurately. So just give us 1 second and we will get this volume going.
Don't really understand that over time they can really build a really fulfilling high school schedule that doesn't have to all necessarily fit in ninth grade. Which leads to, we really kind of want to stress also, be kind to yourself, create a balanced schedule. And that's something that we really encourage you with us, along with their teacher recommendations, to really trust and listen in that process. And there's a lot about different kinds of courses, honors classes, AP, and they'll hear a lot about that. But what we really stress also is making the best decision for yourself. It's not necessarily what your friends are doing or maybe what your sibling did or what you're hearing about, the buzz. Taking an honors class does not mean you have to take others. So again, going back to that balance, listening to teachers and our recommendations and really that balance. So let's go a little bit into what a sample schedule looks like. And yesterday we went over with this again yesterday in the presentation. So everyone will be taking English, social studies, math, and science. Science will always be moving forward with a lab component. Students are required to take an every other day class of PE, which is for the next 4 years. Students will continue with a world language. They'll have a lunch, and then they'll have something called an arts requirement and an elective, which in a little while, Ms. Correa will go through in more depth as to what that means and what kind of courses fulfill those requirements. Now, again, this is sort of a jigsaw puzzle because some students will maybe have a workshop, maybe they have an IS period. Some classes maybe require 2 periods with a lab and a research component. So everyone's schedule will look different, but this is really just the breakdown of, in general, what a 9-period day would look like for a 9th grade student. I want to talk to you about something was sent out to all you 9th grade parents, which is called the 9th grade orientation ebook. This is a really important tool to use with your 9th grader, and we stress that to them as well. It's basically a virtual orientation of the high school, which includes students, high school students who are talking about different classes. It includes a lot of the department chair people talking about the various opportunities that are in the different classes and extracurricular activities, etc. So it has a lot of essential information about the high school, each department's course offerings, and it answers a lot of questions. So if you haven't looked at it yet, we really encourage you to look at it with your kids. And we did a lot of work with them yesterday, understanding the ebook and how to use it. So when I talk about some of the classes, I'm going to show you exactly what it looks like so you can understand how valuable it is. For example, I'm going to talk about math real quick. This is pretty much the framework of how math will work depending on which math your student was in 8th grade. This is kind of the flow chart of where and what you could take in 9th grade. So when I show you right now the page on the ebook of what this would look like, so in the ebook, when you click into math, which when you see the table of contents, it gives you every subject. So if you clicked on math, perfect example. What is algebra? What is geometry? What is geometry honors? What if my kid maybe might need a lab or some extra support? It is fully interactive. You could click on each one. As you can see from the top, they're giving you all the indicators and the exact course description. So this is very, very helpful in making the best decision together with your child and when you get those teacher recommendations. So again, very important. Same thing for science. Depending what your child took in 8th grade, 9th grade, there is some options. How do I decide what's best for my student? Again, go back to the ebook. It explains everything here from what is research, what is bio honors, what's the difference between bio, earth science, advantages, disadvantages. You can see the flow chart, how it works 9th through 12th grade and what opportunities they have. So again, we are stressing that kids and parents really use the ebook. I'm going to pass it over to Ms. Faust, who's going to talk to you some more about the other topics, starting with English.
Hi, everyone. I'm first speaking to you about the English options, English 9 and English honors, and students select one of these based on how they feel they are as readers and writers. Also using the ebook, as Mrs. Mills Carroll said, and also their teachers who are a valuable resource in deciding which class is best. This is a page from the ebook which talks about the 2 different classes and also gives highlights about the 9th grade English electives that students might be interested in, and there are several of them. Before we talk about social studies, keep in mind that a student that doesn't do honors in 9th grade could do so at a later year. For social studies, students are considering the grade level class, Global History 9, or the college level AP World History, with AP World History being a one-year class, an accelerated college class. With the Roman numeral 1, that is the 2-year class. Again, they're thinking about how they are doing with their reading and writing, using the ebook, and also talking with their teachers. This page from the ebook shows the textbook from the Global History 9E class. The ebook also has the textbook from the AP World History class, where students can see it's a more complex textbook with smaller print, less pictures, and where the students will do more analyzing. Students will select their world language, whether they're going to take the grade level 2 class or honors, and their classroom teacher can help with their selection. And there are also a few level 1 classes to consider that you can see on this page. And also on our next slide, there are some very helpful common questions and answers that our students have asked. And I think also important for you and your children to look over together to help them with this selection. Next, we're going to hear from Miss Marino, who will speak to you about physical education.
Cool. Thanks, Mrs. Faust. Yeah, so I'm going to go over a few options that your students have for PE. And like Miss Mills Carroll mentioned a little bit earlier, it is required for all 4 years of high school. But there are a few different options. So the first is just your general PE class, just your traditional gym class where students play sports, learn about fitness, probably the most common class that students opt to take. Then we have aquatics. So if your student's a really strong swimmer, we have a really great team at the high school. The only prereq for this class is that a swim test is administered by the PE department on the first few days of school. Then we have Dance 1. So this is a beginner's dance course open to all levels of dance for those interested in dancing. And Dance 1 fulfills the PE requirement for an entire year. Okay, and then just a little bit about lunch. So it's a really great time to reconnect, recharge. Us guidance counselors really heavily encourage our students to keep lunch in their schedule, especially thinking about how much their schedule gets really busy throughout 9th grade, super packed. So lunch period is a really great time to recharge, socialize with their friends, and fuel up for whatever the rest of their day looks like. Keeping in mind too, lunch might only be the only time that students get a break in their day, especially for those who do sports or clubs right after school and don't get home until maybe after 5 p.m. And also with lunch, they might have the option to meet with their teachers if they need to do some extra help. Overall, keeping lunch in their schedule is really beneficial for students, especially their first year. Okay, and I'm going to hand it over now to Ms. Correa to talk a little bit about our electives at the high school.
So as Ms. Mills Carroll said before, putting a schedule together is kind of like a jigsaw puzzle, right? So after we put in our core subject classes, now we are filling up the rest of our day with electives. So in 9th grade, students get to pick which elective courses they want to take, and any course that is outside of the core subject area is considered an elective. So depending on what that jigsaw puzzle looks like is where we are determining how many credits of electives we need to complete our schedule. So 1 credit courses meet every day for a full year. Half credit alt day courses meet on alternating days for the full school year, such as a red or a white day class. And half credit fall or spring classes meet every day for half of a year, either in the spring for quarters 1 and 2, in the fall for quarters 1 and 2, or spring for quarters 3 and 4. They are each a half credit. And then we have the arts graduation requirement. New York State requires all students to complete a minimum of 1 credit in the Department of the Arts. So one of 2 ways students can fulfill that requirement. They can either take one credit course or 2 half credit courses. If they are taking 2 courses, it is just required that those courses are completed within one of the arts departments listed here. I'm going to show you what the planning worksheet looks like shortly. But on that worksheet, the courses are listed on the front as well as on the back with a graduation cap. The high school also provides what's called a curriculum guide. In addition to the ebook, the curriculum guide provides course descriptions of each class. So before students meet with their guidance counselors to make course selections, they must use this curriculum guide to learn about which classes they want to take. So this is what the curriculum guide looks like. I'm going to scroll down here and show you an example just using the art department. If you click into the art department courses, it gives you a breakdown of each course, the grades that you can enroll in the course, how many credits it is, as well as a brief description of what your child will be doing in the course. So this is a really valuable resource for students to learn about courses. If the course title looks interesting and they're not sure what you do in the course, this is the perfect place to go. So students are required to review this as they make their course selections and before they finalize it with their guidance counselors. All of your students yesterday were invited to join our 8 to 9 Google Classroom. This is where all of today's resources will be posted. One of two ways you can join. You can go to googleclassroom.com and then enter this code or just scan the QR code on your screen. I'm going to show you what the classroom looks like so we all know how to navigate it. Once you are in the classroom, you're going to hit this classwork tab and all of the resources are grouped here. So first is the guidance section. If you're not sure who your student's guidance counselor is, we have the breakdown here along with our contact information. And here is the spreadsheet of your student guidance appointments. So you just click into here, look up your name, and then it has the date and time listed on there. This is today's presentation linked here. The ebook that we also went through, that curriculum guide that I showed you. And this is a copy of the planning worksheet that your student also received yesterday. So on the front side here, these are the arts courses that satisfy that requirement. On the second page, here's all of the department electives offered to freshmen. And then the ones with the graduation caps are specifically, again, the ones that satisfy that arts requirement. And I'm going to bring it back to Ms. Mills-Carroll to close this out.
Okay. When it comes to those electives, many times it's the first time kids are getting to choose electives, and we want them to choose things that they're interested in, and maybe things that they've never got to try before. And when you see that sheet and the amount of opportunities they have at Syosset High School, it is truly amazing. So Syosset High School has many courses to allow students to foster their personal abilities and passions. We talk about challenge and rigor. Again, we really are asking you to talk to the teachers, talking with us about selecting classes that are appropriate level and yet a challenge for you. And balance. We ask kids to think about the time commitment necessary for their academics, extracurricular, and social activities. Kids, do a lot outside of school, and they should. They should be really building a life of balance and things that they enjoy, and that they can manage all of it and do it successfully and have fun, and still do well in school. So we stress that, and we really try to make it that they can go to high school their first year and be successful and not overwhelmed, and feel that they're prepared coming from middle school. I know we're going to have some time for questions. I know some of you have been asking questions along the way, and that we're going to be happy to answer. And please join our Google Classroom so that you have that information and feel like you can help your student, with these questions and things as you go through this. I'm sure some of you parents, this might be the first or second time, and for some of you, this is the first time. So no matter where you fall in that arena, always feel free to reach out and encourage your kids to reach out, because we're really trying to foster them to, to advocate for themselves as they go to high school. So thanks so much. Take care.
Okay, thank you again to our counselors. That was a really great presentation, and we apologize for the two little audio glitches that got on the screen there, but we think certainly you get the idea of it. And again, we'll have this whole presentation posted as well as this meeting. So just before I turn it over to Ms. Waters to moderate two topics really related to geometry honors placement, the kind of news since even the counselor created this video is one, which you'll see in the ebook and the curriculum guide, is that there are the requirements for teacher recommendations are both grade-based during the time when recommendations are going on, which is currently, so the first quarter, and then ultimately, the algebra region, which is an end of the year thing. And both of those, the expectation would be that the student in geometry regions would be 95 and above on the regions and a 95 average in class. So obviously the regions is a ways away, so that's something that would be followed up on after the fact. The other thing is, and we talked a little bit about the override process, and that is something that as parents you do have the right to get involved with, to say, I appreciate the feedback from the teacher, but we think our child can handle this course for whatever reason you choose. And again, we just ask that you sign off on that with us. However, for geometry, geometry honors, we've made a decision as a district to just hold off on overrides for a stretch of time. We'll get back to families when they will be able to override, but we really want to get more data on your students in before we make those recommendations. If you have had children who've gone through the district before, or maybe even if you haven't, you've heard that there are certainly challenges in the geometry honors class. It's a tough class. The teachers are very welcoming and trying to find success for your kids, but it does tend to have a little lower rate of sustained success for students staying in there. And we would much prefer, all of us, that students and families make the right choice with the most data possible. So we're going to hold off a little bit before we accept any overrides in there. And that's for Southwoods and HBT. So, I know we have a few questions in the chat. I am going to turn it over to Ms. Waters to moderate, and I'll certainly jump in if need be. I know Mrs. Faust has been able to join us now, so thank you, Mrs. Faust, and I know Mr. Harrigan's on as well. So thank you.
Hi, everybody. Another thank you to our guidance counselors, certainly, for an excellent video. This also gives you insight to what your children heard yesterday, where the guidance counselors ran through much of this in person. Your kids asked some really wonderful questions during that process yesterday. Please know that, as we said, any additional questions you have that may pertain personally to you and your child, reach out to your guidance counselor directly. They will continue to be in contact as your kids go through the scheduling process. For today, I am going to start to dive into some of the questions. We'll do our best to answer everything. All right. Our first one, as much as you know, we advise students to please try to take a lunch. It is so important. Our first question, I'll share that one with Ms. Correa. If you give up your lunch for an elective, how and when can you eat?
So if you do give up your lunch period to add in more classes, you really don't have a time that you're guaranteed that you're able to eat. It's really at the discretion of your teacher. And if they allow food in the classroom, that's also keeping in mind that the student would have to eat, pay attention to the lesson, have their materials all together. So there's no guarantee that a teacher will allow your child to eat if you are giving up your lunch period.
Thank you. All right. And Ms. Mills Carroll, do you want to take our, can you choose both orchestra and band as art electives?
If you have room at the high school, music is one full period. So it's not an every other day class. So yes, one could count as that arts requirement, and then one could count as your elective. But again, that would really depend on an individual student's schedule. But if they did have room for 2 full credits, yes, one would count for the arts and one would count as an elective.
Ms. Marino, we have a few questions here about aquatics and dance. So would aquatics and / dance be counted as a PE class? Can a student select dance and aquatics? And then a little insight on if you know anything about what dances are practiced, that would be a starting point for us.
Yes. Okay. So the aquatics class and the dance class does count as the PE requirement for the whole year. So they don't have to take, if they don't want to take traditional gym, they can take aquatics, and that fulfills the PE requirement. As for can they select both dance and aquatics? I want to say yes. I think like if you choose dance as PE, technically you could still take aquatics as just an extra elective. If anybody has, if the other counselors have more to add to that, please chime in. And then what types of dance are practiced in Dance 1? To my understanding, it's a beginner's level course. And that's really the most that I personally know about it. However, all that you need to know about it is in the curriculum guide as well. So definitely give that a look over and give that a good read, because the descriptions are super accurate and detailed.
And just in regard.
Oh, Ali, Ms. Mills Carroll, you went on mute somehow.
Yeah, I'm working off of 2 computers. I'm very sorry, something happened. For students who might be more accomplished dancers or who have danced more in the past, for your individual student, if you get in touch with your counselor, we have had students who maybe have moved into Dance 2 or in a quote unquote higher level dance class based on their outside dance experience. So if that is your student in particular, when they meet with their counselor, we can point them in the direction of who to contact and go through that process. So that is, it's not a definite that you have to go into Dance 1, but there is a process to move up.
Thank you, Ms. Mills Carroll. We have another question here about science research. Is science research part of the science lab time? Ms. Faust, would you like to answer that?
Okay, hi everyone. Well, for science research, that's part of the biology honors curriculum. So let's say, for example, the bio class is period 1, and then there's the science lab that's part of bio. That might be 2 red, and then a 2W might be the research class. So that's its own class every other day. And it's taught by a few teachers, a tech teacher, a science teacher, and also a social studies teacher at different times during the year for research in those areas.
Wonderful. Thank you, Ms. Faust. Okay. Our next question here. For those who have instructional support or get pulled out for services, does that prevent them from taking electives or lunch? Ms. Mills Carroll, do you want to take that one if you don't mind?
Sure. So yesterday we kind of covered this with the kids as well. We kind of, when we showed them that picture of the 9 period day schedule, we really tried to show them that there might be spots where you can only have room for a half of an elective, or there might be spots between a lab or this and that. So it would not prevent them from having a lunch. It shouldn't prevent them from having electives. It might mean that even for like the arts requirement, they're going to do half in 9th grade and maybe the other half in 10th grade. So it's that jigsaw puzzle idea is really what we work on with them and with you. Especially when we have their annual review and depending on the type of courses that they're taking, but it does not prevent them from having lunch. And it works out that they definitely get that phys ed credit. They definitely have time for some form of elective. So, we work hard to try to make sure that they're getting something that they really want to do and that we can create a schedule that they're excited about and still support it academically.
Wonderful, thank you. All right, I know we had a parent who raised a hand. If you don't mind just putting the question into the Q&A section of the Meet, that would just be helpful. There's that waffle icon on the bottom right. If you click on that, you can go into Q&A and should be able to pose any questions that you might have. All right, if we could put this maybe to Ms. Correa, how do students sign up for the guidance appointments beginning on December 8th?
So we have scheduled your students' appointments for them. They can view their appointment in our Google Classroom. There's a spreadsheet that says student appointments. You would look up your child's last name and you'll find the day and period and specific time there. And students were instructed if they have a test that period, they can come down to guidance and reschedule that appointment. And of course, if they have follow-up questions or need to speak with their counselor again, we would just make them another appointment on the spot.
Wonderful. And I apologize, I'm not entirely clear on the question about student-created videos. So if you'd like to either clarify that or reach out directly to the guidance office, I'm happy to walk through what that question might be asking. Do we have any additional questions here? Okay, we have a language question. All right, maybe we'll put that back to Ms. Faust, if you don't mind, Ms. Faust. Let's see. For a language requirement, can the child change the language course they want to take for the credit requirement? I.e., Korean in 8th grade counts for 1 credit. ASL in 9th, something else for 10th. So a little explanation on our language requirements.
Okay, we will have students who ask us about changing their language or not continuing with their middle school language. And that is a discussion and a little bit more of a discussion because we really want to think that through. Because students in 8th grade, that counts as 1 year. We want, and high school recommends students to take 3 years of a high school language. So 8th grade counts as 1, 9th grade 2, 10th grade 3. So if we're starting a level 1 language class in 9th grade, a student starts at year 1. So we want to discuss that, but yes, we can change languages. High school offers a few first level courses if students are interested. They also might want to consider continuing with their language and taking the new language class as their elective. So we'll discuss together.
Thank you, Ms. Faust. Yes, some of those questions do become kind of personal and specific questions. So please, if you do know that your child has an interest in various world languages, that is definitely something to discuss since Syosset High School does offer so many wonderful languages. I know we have some questions about the Google Classroom code. Ms. Correa, I'll put that to you to just explain a little bit about the classroom, and the code is up if anybody would like to make note of that now.
So if you're able to scan this QR code, you could scan this to join the classroom, or if you go to Google Classroom, the website, you can just input this code right here. I'm just going to show you what it looks like so we know how to navigate. Let me share this tab. Once you join the Google Classroom, this is what it will look like. You should click on the classwork tab up here. And all of the information that we talked about today is posted on here. And any updates that come from our department will also be posted on here. So if you're not sure who your child's guidance counselor is, you'll find that here under contact. Those student guidance appointments are posted in this spreadsheet, so you can click into here. Today's presentation is linked here. This is the orientation ebook that we went through, linked here. The planning worksheet is linked here. All of your children received a hard copy of this yesterday. And we also have additional copies and guidance, of course. And that curriculum guide is here with the course descriptions and just some additional high school information and forms related to 9th grade planning. So parents and students can join this Google Classroom.
And similarly, parents, if you would like to participate in the meeting that your student has or your child has with the guidance counselor, you are certainly welcome to do that by phone. It works out very nicely for those who are interested. There will be opportunities certainly beforehand if you want to reach out and touch base, and hopefully this presentation is also helpful for some of that. All right. We do have a question here as well. What is the pathway for a student that takes AP World History versus AP World History 1 in 10th grade? Okay. I was going to put it to Ms. Faust, and I think she has something else coming up. All right. Ms. Mills Carroll, do you want to take that?
Sure. So we really stressed with the kids yesterday that the ebook does an incredible job of explaining the differences between global, AP1 and AP World, and they have a really great flow chart of how this would work out. So whoever your child's social studies teacher also is going to go over that a little bit today, but I encourage everyone to use the ebook to understand. They actually even give the kids, we showed them yesterday, a copy of the different types of textbooks, the annotating that's involved, etc. So definitely check that out in the ebook under the social studies tab to see the different pathways that are involved with the AP 2-year course, the 1-year course, and what what would transpire over time depending which pathway they choose.
Wonderful. Again, just a reminder, if you do have questions, if you don't mind putting them in the chat, that would be wonderful. The Q&A section, you have a waffle on the bottom of your screen that can help you find your way to Q&A to pose any questions. I think I'm caught up on our questions right now, so I'll give everybody a moment, though, certainly, if you have anything else that comes to mind. Hopefully this means our presentation has been wonderfully thorough. Okay, here we have another one. When is the final schedule due? Okay. Who wants to take a timeline-oriented question here from our group? Right, it's always an interesting question because we want to obviously work alongside students and families, all right, as things unfold, as we did share, right, we are making our recommendations now, all right, and certainly we do know, as we shared, for example, with Geometry Honors, how we're going to delay any sort of course override requests, certainly, allowing kids some time also to see how they do progress. If you'll see here, Ms. Correa did put up a reminder of some of the important dates for you to be familiar with, including the fact that the week of December 1st, your kids will be going to the high school to get a lay of the land and a feel for some of what's available, right? We start the guidance appointments on the 8th, and then the course requests are due at that mid-February point, February 13th. All right. Parent-teacher conferences do take place before then. So if you have any, kind of final moment questions, but please do feel free to touch base. If there are certain things that you're wondering about with your child's teacher or teachers based upon the course. And certainly there's always time to have conversation with your child's guidance counselor. Okay. All right. And remember, please, that this is all also posted in that Google Classroom. So no pressure to remember all of the different courses.
As far as 9th grade, the only AP class offered would be the AP World History with either the 1-year or the 2-year. And any kids that are interested in is it the computer programming, computer science? There is an opportunity if kids are interested in computer science or coding or have experience in that. There is a process for that. So if kids are interested in that, we encourage them to come talk to us. We mentioned it a little bit yesterday, but there is a small project that they need to show their coding skills and some of their experience with coding, and then if that is something that they have experience with, they will put them in a higher level class. So again, those specific things, again, we really are encouraging you and your child to use that ebook to kind of curtail those specific questions and whatever their real interests are, strengths, if that's an area that they want to push forward with.
Absolutely. Ms. Correa, we'll put this one to you. How will parents know what recommendations the teachers are making for courses?
So starting next week, if you sign on to your parent portal, you'll be able to see all of the courses that your child's teachers have recommended them for. I believe that is active next week, and you'll receive an email when that goes live.
Any other questions, parents? Okay. If a student is enrolled in an advanced class but is struggling, is he or she allowed to change it to a lower level class? So we do get this question certainly with some of our honors or even the AP class, if it proves to be too much. I do want to share that part of what we do and what we work through, and we try to do it as early as possible, is when your child is selecting courses and before we do any overrides, we really do like to discuss the challenges that may exist and look holistically at student schedules, after school commitments and activities. But Ms. Mills Carroll, if I could put this one to you, enrolled in an advanced class and decides it's too much.
You know, it's interesting because a lot of kids asked this question yesterday, and the best advice is, you know, it is possible that if they're really struggling, that, you know, if they meet with their high school counselor and it's a decision that's made between them and you and the teacher, and usually it involves the coordinator of that department, they can make a move. But what we really have stressed and what we've seen over time is that that move is not always it's not always a perfect match. And a lot of times that really means disrupting an entire schedule. And that has been something that's a challenge. And it's hard for a lot of kids. You know, you're rolling along and now all of a sudden maybe it's October and you are not feeling successful in a certain class. And now it's a big disruption of not just moving that class, but a lot of other classes. So that is one thing of this idea. Well, if I just take it, it's too hard, I can drop it. It's not a philosophy that we really encourage. And I think that it's something that we try to really stress more in our conversations with the high school, that it's really more about them disrupting an entire schedule. If they get in and it's really just not for them, or it's just too hard, you know, yes, those things can happen. And, you know, definitely the high school's going to work with them to get them in a better situation. But we want them to understand the scheduling impacts, because it's definitely become more of a challenge at the high school when kids do need to move levels in a course. And there's a process for it. And we went through that with the kids, but just to understand the impact of, you know, we tell kids they should always try, they should stretch, they should challenge themselves, but understand that it's not just always a real quick, easy change if they need to.
Ms. Correa, we have one. Could teacher recommendations change as the year progresses?
Yes, of course. The teacher's recommendations can change depending on your child's performance, and just also demonstrated passion and interest in the class. You know, if the teacher feels like, you know, your child has really strengthened their skills and is participating in class, demonstrating a real interest for that subject area. We have had situations where teachers will come to the guidance counselor and say, you know, I do change my recommendation, and we can go ahead and change the course with the family's consent.
Good. Thank you. Ms. Marino, do you want to talk a little bit about the trip to the high school that is coming up a little bit, where they get to see the building and learn a little bit?
Yes, so next week they will be visiting the high school. It's for most of the morning, I believe, until noon, so it's for a few hours. They will get a tour of the building. They'll get a feel for some of the classes, I believe, and someone correct me if I'm wrong, but they get to see like a little glimpse of some of the classes going on. And then also they get to explore some of the elective course opportunities as well. So they'll get a good feel for what they're in for the high school. However, they're also going to be scheduled a real orientation for 9th grade sometime in the summertime in August. So they're gonna have a few opportunities to get to know the high school, to see it a little bit, and get familiar.
Wonderful. Thank you. Okay. Let's see what else here. All right. Do we have an opportunity for them to switch from honors to regular, meaning in geometry honors, for example, when is the last month for them to switch? The high school doesn't necessarily post that, so we don't have an exact date that we are aware of. However, to Ms. Mills Carroll's point, it can be an entire schedule change when you drop from one course or one level to the next. So we really encourage kids to think that through, be very mindful of it, and also to give the class enough time. Keep in mind too that, you know, a B in a class may be something that you want to continue to work for. So there's a lot of discussion that always goes into anything before we make a switch. Okay. Start and end time for the high school. Whoever's posting this, you are correct that there's been a lot of discussion about starting the day later. There have been no changes to the school day. I'm going to pose this to the guidance counselors. I'm not sure either. What is the official start time of the high school? I realize I've never thought about that. We'll have to get back to you on that. We'll look it up in just a minute. I apologize. I've never thought about that. All right. We'll go to the next one while we're looking at it.
Oh, sorry. This one is the start time is 7:39.
Thank you.
And hold on. And that's period 1.
And then period 9 ends at 2:21.
Thank you. And I believe that you can find that on the Syosset High School website. But thank you for asking that. I never thought of that. So whoever posed that one. All right. Next up, are psychological counseling services available for students? There is an important adjustment phase as they transition from middle school to high school. There certainly is. Ms. Faust, would you like to take that? Do we have our psychologists and social workers available?
Okay, hi again. Yes, high school has psychologists and also a social worker, and students can make appointments with them. They can make appointments also with their guidance counselor for talking, but they also can go to the guidance office and ask about making an appointment with a psychologist. And I'm pretty sure psychologists are like we're at HBT by alphabet, and so are the psychologists.
Wonderful. All right. Thank you, Ms. Faust. And it is important to remember there are plenty of support staff available at the high school, just as there are here at the middle school. If you do look, by the way, in the student parent handbook that is posted in the classroom, you will see a lot of information regarding everything from bell schedule to supports that are available, et cetera. The virtual high school orientation for parents on March 18th. Will it be in the morning, and how long is the virtual orientation? Correct me if I'm wrong, team. I believe there is a morning. I think they also have an evening, but I can't recall now if it's just recorded. And I think it's approximately an hour. Is that correct, team?
It's definitely recorded so that if you can't make it during the day, that you definitely have an opportunity to view it, just like how we're doing here.
Okay. Any other questions, parents? Did I miss any of the questions posted, team? Okay. All right. Everybody joining us, thank you so much for joining us today. I do want to remind everybody that our guidance team, our administrative team, we are always here to answer any questions that you may have. We understand, especially if your current 8th grader is your oldest, that there may be a lot of questions. Please keep them coming. We are happy to answer them. We want to take some of the mystery out of this process. Many of us on here have been helping transition kids from the middle school to the high school for a number of years, and we're happy to share that our students by and large find tremendous success and happiness throughout the transition process, and then settling in, go on to do some wonderful, wonderful things at the high school and beyond. So take a deep breath, know that we are all here for you to support you and your child through the process. So anything else that we can support you with, please don't hesitate to reach out. Mr. Bonanno, any closing words for us?
No, just thank you again, everyone, for joining, and thank you for both the questions asked and the questions answered. And we will be here with you on this journey. I know it's maybe daunting to start, but we're here, and we'll coordinate with the high school to help you as well. So thanks, and we'll be around, and a happy Thanksgiving to everyone. Have a great day.